And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Greetings, I'm National Weather Service meteorologist Peter Chan with your Alaska aviation weather outlook on this Thursday, May 9th. And this outlook will cover the time frame of Friday into Saturday. Though on this Thursday, we do have low pressure that's pulling up into the north central Gulf coastline. And it has quite a surge of moisture, an atmospheric river that's produced heavy rainfall along areas of the northeastern Gulf Coast down into the northern central panhandle. That will begin to fall off as the spigot kind of turns off on Friday, but very heavy snows have hit the coastal mountains here of the northeastern Gulf, northern panhandle, especially up into the southern Yukon near the Canadian border. Friday morning we'll still have IFR conditions along the inner coastal mountains here of the panhandle and northeastern Gulf Coast. An area of snow, lower cloudiness here, especially along the western part of the north slope with a weak low that'll be pushing off there of Wainwright. And then IFR conditions, the Bering Strait north side of the Seward Peninsula, and some IFR down along the lower portion of the Alaska Peninsula. Friday afternoon, typically with the daytime heating ceilings and things do begin to lift. We expect MVFR conditions along the Gulf Coast on up into beyond Prince William Sound, some IFR down through the central areas of the peninsula, especially say around and east of Chinook and then southwest of Bristol Bay. As we go into Saturday morning, with nighttime cooling, lowering of ceilings and visibilities at times occurs here along the Arctic coast, north slope through the lower Chukchi Sea, also out over parts of the eastern Bering, and then way out just to the south there of the western half of the Aleutians. And then for Saturday afternoon, we expect improved conditions in areas of the Yukon Valley in the interior, and MVFR conditions, Panhandle, Gulf Coast, along and south of the Alaska Range, along the spine of the Brooks Range, and along the Arctic coast and north slope. We expect MVFR conditions continuing down along areas of the west and southwest coast with IFR, especially from around St. Paul to the north side of the Alaska Peninsula, and then IFR conditions, central Aleutians southward into the North Pacific. So pass conditions for Friday, we're looking at Anatuvik Pass, MVFR becoming VFR. Same thing, Adigan Pass, MVFR becoming VFR. Lake Clark and Merrill should generally just hold with MVFR conditions on Friday. Same thing for Rainy Pass, MVFR conditions. Windy Pass becoming VFR as we get into the afternoon hours. And then Isabel also MVFR becoming VFR. Mentasta should generally be able to hold on to VFR conditions, but as you fly further south down through the Copper River Basin, we expect MVFR conditions. Tanita should generally hold on to MVFR conditions in the pass and to the south of there. To the north, there could be a breakout into some VFR conditions on Friday. And then for Portage Pass, generally MVFR conditions throughout Friday, though the west entrance could become VFR in the afternoon. And then finally, Chilkoot and White, starting out IFR in the morning, becoming VFR as we go through the afternoon and by early evening. Looking at the freezing levels aloft, they do bump upward. That low pressure that today is coming through this region, tracking between Yakutat Bay and Cape Suckling. It's going to ride north, pulling moisture further northward into parts of the interior and northwest Canada. But we find the freezing levels have been bumped up aloft 4,000-6,000 feet through the lower half of the Panhandle, as high as 8,000 feet and 10,000 feet there and south of Haiduk Y. Out to the west, another little low helping to bump freezing levels aloft, but you don't get them above 6,000 feet until near and south of the central Aleutians. Now on Friday, we are going to have a low that currently on this Thursday is tracking across the Aleutians. It's going to be then riding northeastward and heading toward the northwestern Gulf for the weekend for Saturday. And as it does so, precipitation associated with this low and thicker cloud cover will produce icing, moderate icing above 3,000 feet across this region of the Alaska Peninsula, Kodiak Island, southwest areas around and north of Bristol Bay. Into the western Gulf, we could have some pockets of moderate icing and some of the showers that pop up here in the central, east central interior, especially in clouds above 3,000 feet. And then back here to the west, there's some lower cloud cover and some areas of lighter snow where there could be some moderate icing as you get up above 1,000 feet. And then with another low, you have to get way out toward the western half of the Aleutians where there could be some moderate icing above 6,000 to 8,000 feet. Looking at the jet stream level winds, 30,000 feet. We still have this trough just kind of sitting here along the west side of the mainland and out into the Bering. And a broad southwesterly flow comes up out of the North Pacific through the Gulf and then into northwest Canada. 100-knot wind max there out through the lower Gulf, North Pacific interface, and then a stronger jet core, anticyclonically curved like this, with 130 to 140 knot west-northwest winds there just south of the Aleutian chain. Now at 9,000 feet or 700 millibars, we find a belt of winds 45 to 60 knots near and just south of the Gulf in the North Pacific, lifting northward. And as we take a look at 3,000 feet, this is associated with that low that's currently on Thursday out here in the Aleutians, but that's going to emerge coming up here through the Alaska Peninsula. And ahead of it, at 3,000 feet, we find some of the strongest winds entering the southwest Gulf, upwards of 35 to 45 knots with a maximum speed upwards of 55 knots, and then more of an easterly, northeasterly flow on the backside of the circulation along Bristol Bay back towards St. Paul and St. George. And so as a result, we would expect the greatest threat for moderate turbulence on Friday to be over southwest areas of the mainland, including the Alaska Peninsula, Kodiak Island into the entrance there of Cook Inlet. Surface to 4,000 feet, there could be some moderate turbulence extending back west all the way to St. Paul and tailing off to isolated moderate turbulence back through the eastern Aleutians. Surface to 3,000 feet.